Now that you have the Dream Frame Pro at home and you're ready to start your very first project, let's talk about loading the fabric onto the frame. First thing out of the box, you'll find your leader cloths. And the first thing you need to do with those is fold each one in half and mark its center. Do that with a permanent marker because you're going to need that center mark every time you mount a project on the frame. Then you begin working with the backing for your quilt. And I mark the fabric layers by putting just a little clip in the edge of my fabric. And everybody will have his or her own way of doing this. Some people like to overlap. I like to pinch the two layers together and pin them. And there's a line marked on the leader cloth to help you with a good position for your pins, because it's important to keep all of the layers straight as you put your quilt together on the frame. You'll notice that I worked from the center out to the edge, and then I'm going to go back to the center and work to the other edge of my quilt. Once you have the entire width of your backing pinned onto the leader cloth, then you're going to roll the back rail and when you get to the edge of the leader, you'll stop every so often to make sure that your backing is staying straight and smooth. One of the nicest things about the Dream Frame Pro is that you don't have to base the fabric layers together first before you put them on the frame. And it also means that if you have some minor wrinkles in your fabric, the tension of the frame will take care of those for you. Now, as I get to the end, I'm going to take the leader cloth that's attached to the front rail, and again, matching up those center marks, I'm going to pin my backing fabric to the leader on the front rail. When you have the last pin in place, then you're going to reposition the backing fabric so we can put on the other layers. And to do that, come to the ratcheting rail and release the ratchet. That's going to let your back rail rotate backwards. And that means that we'll be able to load the quilt onto the front rail. Once you have the backing in this position, then you're going to want to re-engage the ratchet. That will keep the back rail from rotating when you don't want it to, so that this stays fairly taut. Then we're ready to put on the batting. When you're mounting a quilt, the 10-foot frame can hold just about anything you want to put on it. But if you're working on a rectangular quilt, think about this. You can always mount it sideways with the longest dimension on the frame. That way you'll be able to finish all of your quilting without as many stops to advance the fabric. Now with the batting, I'm going to just float that on top of my backing and tuck it in between these two front rails. Once I get it tucked in, I can smooth it out pretty easily. And then we're ready to add our top fabric. We have this standing in for piecing, but this would be the pieced layer of your quilt top. Load it with your center right underneath the mark on the roller that you've already used. And then we're going to attach this top fabric to the leader cloth that you have left for the lower rail on the front. Same as before, we have our permanent marking and our clip that we're going to want to put together when we pin these. When the last pin is in place, then we're going to roll the quilt top around its roller. Be sure that your ratchet is engaged, and that way you'll know right away that you're rolling things in the correct direction, because you'll be able to hear it as it clicks against the ratchet. You'll notice that I haven't pinned the top of my quilt top to anything. So what I'll do is we roll it so that it's just an inch or so below the edge of your backing and batting. And then smooth everything into place. At this point, you could pin all of your layers together, but the Dream Quilter 15 and several other brother machines that you might be using on the Pro frame have basting stitches built in that are great for securing these layers together. It's as simple as touching the screen, you select the basting stitch, and then you can use your machine to hold the layers together. Before I start to stitch, I'm going to take the side clamps and I'm going to position them to hold the edges of my fabric. For more information, be sure to visit your authorized brother dealer or visit brother-usa.com.